Good afternoon, everybody. It's Corey Stewart here in Virginia, and glad to be talking to you on this Friday. Something kind of funny hit my mailbox this morning, an email box, and that is a tweet that from Rick Wilson. Now, Rick Wilson, for those of you who don't know, is he's the co-founder of the Lincoln Project. Now, if you remember all these really horrible anti-Trump ads from the Lincoln Project back, during the campaign, during the election, and they were coming from these, really self-righteous so-called Republicans. They said they were Republicans, but we all know that they weren't Republicans at all. They were just anti-Trump haters, most of whom were probably very far left-wing progressives. But whatever. And then if you remember, the Lincoln Project, went down in absolute shame as it came out that one of the founders, or a major guy in it anyway, who was running it, was a real creepy guy who was getting together and sending really disgusting messages to underage men. And so the Lincoln Project kind of shriveled up because all these people who were passing judgment on Donald Trump actually turned out to be real sick puppies themselves. But anyway, that's a long way of kind of getting back and background of what the Lincoln Project was. But the co-founder of the Lincoln Project was a person named Rick Wilson. Now, Rick, typical, never Trumper, loves the establishment, hated the fact that, Trump and Trump supporters like you and me, had taken over the party, and etc. So Rick, as it turns out, according to this tweet that was released today, although he published it in 2013, is in fact a friend of and a former roommate of Pete Snyder. So Rick Wilson, founder of the Lincoln Project, was a roommate of Pete Snyder. And Rick, in this tweet from 2013, says that Pete and he lived together in an apartment together with some Russian prostitutes. Now, I know this sounds kind of so over the top, it's like ridiculous, but it's true that this tweet is out there. And in fact, I posted that tweet earlier today. Check it out. Don't take my word for it. This comes from Pete Snyder's former roommate in New York, where they were apparently, according to this guy, were living together with these Russian prostitutes. Now, everybody deserves their day in court, okay? Everybody deserves their chance to explain. And I'm going to give that to Pete. Pete can explain this. And maybe there is a completely understandable explanation about why he was living with this guy who was the Pete, who was the, Rick Wilson, who was the founder of this anti-Trump organization, the Lincoln Project, and why Rick would say that they were living together with these prostitutes. Now, I think Pete should explain that. I think he should explain it publicly. And I don't know, we don't know anything about these prostitutes that apparently, Rick said that Pete Snyder and he were living with. Whether these young women were being exploited, whether there was trafficking involved. And by the way, I don't even know, it just says prostitutes. I don't even know if they were women. Maybe they were men, maybe they were men. I don't know. They were, and whether they were of age. It's not clear from that tweet. But at a bare minimum, I do think that Mr. Snyder should explain to you, when he asks for your vote, it should explain that story. Maybe there's a perfectly reasonable excuse. Now, here's the thing, though, folks. This old expression, where there's smoke, there's fire. When there's smoke, there's fire. Meaning, if there's some rumblings of things and rumors, they're not necessarily true. But when you get repeated things coming up about somebody, there's probably an element of truth. And here are the facts, okay? We know that Pete was, in fact, the roommates and probably still is the friend. You need to ask this question of the founder of the Lincoln Project, the very virulently anti-Trump group that ran millions and millions of dollars worth of ads and damaged President Trump in the campaign last year. We know that Pete, in the 2015 Republican advance, made a seriously vicious speech against President Trump. Candidate Trump at the time. We know that he got on national television and called Donald Trump a racist jerk. We know that Pete has never publicly recanted any of these statements, any of these speeches, any of these actions, any of these associations. And it's painting a picture very clearly that Pete is very clearly a never-Trumper, trying to disguise himself as somebody who's pro-Trump just for the purposes of getting your vote in the May 8th Republican convention here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, folks, I can't tell you how to vote, obviously. And I'm going to respect you for whoever you vote for. That is completely your decision. But I do believe that you have a right to this information, and I'm going to provide it. And I will continue to provide it. Don't forget, for those of you who live in Virginia, if you want to vote in the Republican nomination, which I hope you do in the convention on May the 8th, you got to pre-register. Go to rpv.org. That's for the Republican Party of Virginia. rpv.org. Hit on the 2021 nomination method. And find out, you got to fill out this form and you got to hand it in by the deadline, and that deadline depends upon which locality in Virginia you live. And for those in Hampton and for those in Newport News, Virginia, I think that deadline may be as early as today. So get off this thing, check it out if you live in those two jurisdictions. If you don't live in those two jurisdictions, still go to rpv.org, fill out the form, and get it in and submit it where the directions tell you to submit it, probably to your local committee. You can probably do it electronically, but you got to get it done, okay? All right, folks, you have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Oh, one more thing. Continue to pray for Alice Butler Short. She's still in the hospital, still having a rough time. If you get a chance, perhaps the biggest promoter of Donald Trump in Virginia is Alice Butler Short, and she certainly was the biggest supporter during the campaign. Please give her your prayers. She's from Fairfax County, Alice Butler Short. We'll talk to you soon.